Yes, we are live right here at 7 o'clock on Tuesday night for the good fight. Ooh, ooh, it's the good fight. Ooh, ooh, it's the good fight. Thank you all so much for joining. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I forgot myself. Oh, thank you so much for joining us for Beyond the Page, powered by the good fight. If you were not here last week, I think I finally made the announcement that I have started a church, and the name of the church is The Good Fight. And so I'm going to have to reimagine what it looks like to have the good fight be an umbrella for whatever happens underneath that. So the good fight powers Beyond the Page. And so Beyond the Page is the new direction that we're going right now. Well, it's not a new direction, but it's just a new name. And it's rooted in, and I didn't have this ready for us last week, but here it is. It's rooted in Romans chapter 12, verse 3. Let me go ahead and put that up now. I have it in the easy to read version and in the easy English version. So this is yeah. So this is, oh no, that's not it. It's the Second Corinthians. Yeah, it's the Second Corinthians 3 and 6. Which one is this? This is, I'm trying to figure out, I can't remember. We're going to start at verse 6 where it says, God has made us his servants, so we are able to tell people the message of his new covenant. This new covenant is not about rules that someone has written down. Instead, it comes from God's Spirit. Rules bring death as a punishment, but God's Spirit brings new life to us, not death. And I want to read it again in a different version. Right here, verse 6. He made us able to be servants of a new agreement from himself to his people. It is not an agreement of written laws, but it is of the Spirit. The written law brings death, but the Spirit gives life. So the Beyond the Page is rooted in 2 Corinthians 3 and 6. It says, it is the Spirit of what is written that gives us, we are in relationship, a new agreement with God that says, it's not about rules. It's not about checking boxes. It's not about dotting I's and crossing T's. It's about living into the flow of the Spirit that allows us to move and navigate according to what God says to us individually. What does your faith mean to you? How does your faith show up for you? How does your faith mobilize and inspire and motivate you according to your new agreement, not the old traditions of the past, not the faith of your childhood, but what is this new agreement that God is making with only you that is beyond what you see written on the page? And so that's what this is now. I keep forgetting. Oh, as a matter of fact, I didn't even put it in the little name thing. I still put the good fight. So it's going to take me some time to get used to it. So yes, welcome to Beyond the Page, which is powered by the good fight. I can't wait to talk more about the church. Well, I can talk about it now. The church is it's not about going to a building. I'm not looking to rent any space anywhere. I'm not looking for a brick and mortar. I'm not doing that. That is not the goal at all. If anything, we will gather in close, cozy spaces like somebody's house, like somebody's home. And we'll, even if we have to be like 4 and 5 and 6 people on the one couch that they have, like that is what the spirit of the good fight, the church of the good fight is all about. It's about having these conversations where we are challenging our faith, where we are thinking deeply and critically and broadly about what it means to be faithful for such a time as this. And we're doing that in a way that doesn't require anything of us. It doesn't require that you join the church. There is no membership. There is no constitution. There is no voting. There are no tithes. There are no giving. There isn't any giving. Well, any donations, like that's not what I'm asking. Any money that I need, I'm hoping to write a grant. That's why I wanted to have a 501c3. Let me write a grant. So yes, there's no requirement. One of the things that I've been thinking about a lot lately is gift giving. And it has nothing to do with this season. It has to do with me being in relationship with people, being in relationship with people who have less than I have in one area, but they have more than I have in another. And how do we get to the point that we understand, or we help people understand, or we understand for ourselves that when somebody gives you a gift, there is no obligation on your end. You don't have to pay me back. You don't have to figure out a way to show your gratitude. Well, you can say thank you. Of course, you're going to say thank you at that moment. But most of the time when somebody gives us something, we're like, wait a minute, I got to give it back, because I don't want to be in a position of owing anybody. I don't want anybody to say that they gave me something. I don't want anybody to say that they did anything for me. Well, that's not what gift giving is about. Gift giving comes from the Spirit. I give it to you freely, according to the principle in the Bible that says I give expecting nothing in return. And it's so hard for us to just accept what somebody offers. And because it's so hard for us to do that with people, we have a hard time doing it with God as well, because the way that we treat God is the way we treat each other. It's a mirror, it's a reflection. The way we treat each other is how we feel about God. It is a reflection. And so God says to us that you don't owe me any. Yes, Jesus died on the cross for those of you who believe that, but not so that you can do something. It was a gift for you. All you have to do is receive it. And even if you don't receive it, listen to the awesomeness of God. Even if you don't receive it, the gift is still yours. You can reject it, you can resist it, you can dismiss it, you can act like you never heard of it, you can be ignorant about it, and it's still yours for the reception. It's all up to you. And so that's what the Good Fight, the church, is about. It's about us being in conversation with each other about our faith in ways that broaden, that open us up, in ways that grow us and develop us, in ways that allow iron to sharpen iron. And there's absolutely no requirement on your end at all. And this is the Good Fight. So if somebody says, like, is this church? Yeah, we have church on Tuesday nights from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. Invite your friends. Do like we do at church. Invite your friends. Bring somebody. It's Friendship Sunday, Friendship Tuesday. You know how we do. And so that's who we are. So we're so grateful. And I always say we, because T is right here in the window. Yes, I keep her in the window because she is some nosy. She is some nosy. So we are here today, and we are gathered in this space to have this conversation with you in the spirit of Salbona. So it is in that spirit of oneness. The oneness that binds us together is our humanity. And there's nothing we can do about that. I don't care how you feel about it. I really don't, because it doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, you can't change it. What does the Serenity Prayer say? Look, don't spend your time trying to fix stuff that you can't fix. Don't spend your time worried about that. My brother gets on to me about that all the time. He's like, you're always trying to rationalize stuff. You're always trying to make it make sense. Everything don't make sense. And you spend too much time trying to make it make sense when you could be using that energy for something else. So there's nothing you can do about the fact that we are bound together by our humanity. But there is something that we can do about the way that we interact, the way that we are human with each other, the way that we honor each other's presence, the way that we celebrate each other's existence. That's what we can work on. And that's what these conversations are about. So thank you again for joining us for Beyond the Page, powered by the Good Fight. So the title that I used on the flyer today is called Arrogant Accountability. Arrogance accountability. I feel like we need to do spend some time, what do you call it? Leveling. I can't remember what people call it in the line of work that I do as a cultural strategist. It's something about like determining the base, like what's the baseline? Like what is the foundation from that we all need to agree on? I don't know if I want to say agree, that we all need to accept in order for the conversation to be able to move forward. And so what happens a lot of times is that we are all saying the same words, but we have different definitions of those words in our minds. And so we are not talking on the same page. And sooner or later, the conversation is going to dissolve because we're like, what are you talking about? What you talking about? And sometimes it gets spicy. Sometimes it gets spirited. Sometimes people get mad and walk all out. And so we don't want any of that to happen. So I feel like we need to just the definition that I want to offer to you just for this space. I am not saying that it is the only definition. I'm not saying that you don't have a right to your definition. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying for the purpose of this conversation, and you can chime in and be like, well, I don't like your definition. I think it should be this. I'm here for it. I have absolutely no problem with that at all. So I just want to offer this definition of arrogant to us so that we can be on the same page as the conversation unfolds. Yeah, I take three medications, 3 pills, and all three of them, the side effect is dry mouth, and it drives me bananas. But anyway, and it's real bad. Like sometimes I can't even swallow. Listen. All right. And so when we're talking about arrogant, it's talking about you having this kind of inflated sense of responsibility that you place on yourself. So you're thinking that you have to, you feel like it's your duty, it's your responsibility, that you have a role to play, that if you don't play this particular role, then you have a direct impact on somebody else's life, somebody else's livelihood, somebody else's mind, body, soul, and spirit. And so you take on the obligation of trying to make sure that you are in the right place at the right time to say the right things to affect change in somebody else's life or to protect people in some way. So the arrogance is in you for yourself deciding that it's your responsibility to handle something, whatever that something is. You say, oh, if it had not been, if I would have that kind of thing. So that's the definition of arrogant that I'm using, that you take the onus on yourself to be responsible for something that doesn't belong to you, but you believe that it is for whatever reason. And we might talk about some of those reasons and we might not, we'll see. But this is how I got here. So I used to tell people that I watch crime shows, crime and cooking shows, reality cooking shows, reality crime shows. I cannot even say that anymore. I can't even remember the last time that I actually watched a cooking show. Probably about a month and a half ago, and I didn't even finish that series. But I used to watch them all the time. But now I am just hooked on reality crime shows. And when I say reality crime shows, I'm not talking about anything like the Real Housewives of something or Meet the Brand, whoever these people are that you're following around with a camera. All of those things are scripted. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about those crime shows where you are sitting with the people who were impacted directly by some crime that happened in real life to real people in real places. So much so that if you feel like they left out, because it's not scripted, but it is edited. So there's some parts of the story that are left out because they don't help move the conversation in the way that the editor wanted. So you can actually type in the person's name and you can type in the situation and it'll pop up on Google and it'll give you more information. So that's what I mean about reality, that these are real people and this is a real situation. We've got real documents that solidify the conversation. We are basing this on facts. We got video footage. We got police pictures. Like we've got all of that so that this is something that happened for real. And so those are the conversations that I'm interested in. And I'm not interested in them so much for the crime. So I don't have this morbid fascination about seeing people get killed or listening to the stories about them getting killed. But I am a storyteller and I am a story collector. And I do like sitting and receiving stories from other people. Like the one particular series that I watch is called Evil Lives Here. And a lot of times the people who are telling the story, they'll say, it's been 10 years and I'm just now able to share this story. One woman was like, I got cancer and they just told me I have less than a year to live. And so if I'm going to ever have an opportunity to speak my piece on this, the time is now. And so the vulnerability, the transparency, the pain and the sorrow that you can see in the faces and in the body language, like, yes, I'm here for all of that. And I want to embrace that. And so I'm watching these crime shows. I'm watching Evil Lives Here, Married to Murder, Married to Evil, Killer Kids, like these series. And one of the things that has happened more than once, like innumerable times, is a person that the storyteller is directly related to the person who was killed by in some way. When I say directly related, I don't mean sister, brother, mama, cousin. I mean sister, brother, mama, daddy. I mean, like, this was your best friend, this was your husband, this was your ex-husband, this was your ex-girlfriend. Like, you're directly related. Oh, look who's here. I see you. I see you. Hey, Takia. Hey, Takia. And so the people who are telling the story in these reality crime shows, they are directly related to the person. This is a person who's been in your life for some reason. Y'all were classmates, y'all were roommates, y'all were study buddies. Like, so you have a direct relationship with this person who got killed. And so what happens is, at some point when because the story has to go through the whole, we're going to meet the person when they were born. We're going to talk about their childhood. We're going to introduce you to to the person who ends up killing them. We're going to talk about the relationship that they had together. Like, so there's a whole arc of the story. And then after the person is killed, it's going to circle back to the storyteller. And now the storyteller is going to tell you or begin to express. They've been expressing along the way, but they're really going to pour out in this moment with tears, with vibration in their voices. Like, with all of that comes with telling a story that's rooted in grief and mourning. They're going to say, I should have. This is what the storyteller says. I should have done A. If I had done B, this would not have happened. If I had, if only my phone, if only I had answered the phone, if only I had shown up, if only I hadn't gone to work, if only I had paid more attention, if only I had fought harder, and if only, like, something you believe, the storyteller believes that they had the responsibility to do that would have kept their family member, their direct relationship person alive. So that's what they begin to talk about, and that's usually how the story ends, with them sharing how they feel about the fact that they were not there to do whatever it was they were called to do in that moment, and the person died. And then they also tell you, like, how many years the person got, or what prison they're in, or if they're out, that kind of thing. Also, Takia says, I just thought about it. I owe you a phone call about that. And I hadn't thought about it either. We said we were going to do it, 2 Wednesdays ago? Like, yeah. I just told my best friend that I am patient with Kairos time. Kairos is God's special timing. So I believe that we're going to get it done if it's meant to be done. So I'm glad you reminded me. You reminded you, but in reminding you, you reminded me. And so when the storyteller takes on the responsibility of having, or of having been, when you take on the responsibility of thinking that you should have been able to stop what happened to your directly related to person from happening, when you say that if only you had done something, then this is what I'm calling arrogance. I'm calling it arrogant for you to think that you have so much power that you could have changed the trajectory of another person's life based on the relationship that they have with this other person, if you had done something differently, if you had lived your life differently. And so what happens is you spend the end of the end of the session, the end of the story, the end of the storyline, you spend all of that time absorbing into your own body your failure to protect the person who ended up dead. And what happens in that moment is that the person who actually did the killing, we don't place any responsibility on them. We don't talk about them. In a sense, we absolve them, because we've said, no, it was my fault. It was my fault that I did not answer your phone call. It was my fault that I didn't try harder to convince you to leave that relationship. It was my fault that I didn't show up on your door and say, come on right now, I'm coming to get you. I don't care what you say. You now internalize all of that as if you had power that I do not believe belongs to you. So Takia said, okay, I'm following you. I never considered this. Yeah. I've been thinking about this for a few weeks. My friend Triana said, "Are you ready for tonight?" And I said, yeah, because it's been percolating. It's been percolating in my mind for a while. Yeah, and so I feel like and here's the I want to root it in the scripture for tonight. This scripture that I started reading a few minutes ago, that comes from Romans 12 verse 3. This is Romans 12 verse 3. I've got it twice. I've got it in the easy to read version, and I've got it in the easy English version. I am not going to tell anybody that you should read a certain translation. I think you should use whatever translation speaks to you. These two translations speak to me more than the others, like the NIV, the KJV, the NJKV, the Message. They speak to me more because they were written for people who did not understand, who do not understand English as a first language. English is not their soul's language. And so we are having to break it down to the simplest of components so that they can not only read it, but they can read it and understand it, and they can understand it and then be able to apply it. And so that's why I'm using these particular translations. I'm not judging them. I'm not giving them any more weight. I'm just telling you how I feel about them. And so the first one that I want to read is Romans 12 and 3. And this is about this notion that you think it's you could have changed something if only you had acted a certain way. So this is what Romans 12 and 3 from the easy to read version says. God has given me a special gift, and that is why I have something to say to each one of you. Don't think that you are better than you really are. You must see yourself just as you are. Let me read that again. God has given me, this is the letter to the Romans. We would say that this came from Paul. It's been attributed to Paul. God has given me, Paul, a special gift. And that is why I have something to say to each one of you. God has given me the gift of being able to talk to each one of you individually to tell you this. Don't think that you are better than you really are. You must see yourself just as you are. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Let me get this comment. Takia says, so on the flip side, what about the butterfly effect? If a single action could change the trajectory, is it wrong or arrogant to think that maybe you're the action that could have changed the outcome? So on the flip side, what about the butterfly effect? If a single action could change the trajectory, is it wrong or arrogant to think that maybe you're the action that could have changed the outcome? I think that I do think that there are actions that you can take to change outcomes. I do think that. What I'm arguing is that for you to say because you didn't do it, then you could have prevented this because the power is yours. I think that's what my argument, the crux of my argument hinges on the power that you believe that you have. In the friendship, you believe that you had enough power to get this person to say, no, I'm going to end this relationship right now. When really you don't have that power. Because even if you tell your best friend or your best whoever, even if you tell your mama, your dad, whoever it is, even if you say to them, this relationship is not for you, it's going to end in somebody getting hurt, you might even get killed, you're going to end up in jail, leave it alone, let it go. You can say that to them. But unless they use their power to get out of the situation by any means necessary, even if it means that it ends in death, then you can't change it. So because the person did not make the decisions to change their situation, then for you to now take control of it and say, well, you could have changed it for them. How so? Because even if you had taken that person out of the situation for, let's say, a month, at the end of that month, if they want to go back, guess what they're going to do? They're going to go back. So now you're going to say, well, it's my fault for letting them go back? You can't control that. And so that's the issue that I'm arguing. I do think that there are situations like like what you said. Yes, we can change some things. But sometimes we take on power we believe that we have power that we don't have. And so Romans 12 and 3 says, hey, you don't don't think of yourself more highly than you ought. Don't think that you have the power to fix somebody else's life. Who is that? Ian Levan said, this ain't a Ian fix my life. You don't have the power to fix somebody's life. You have the power to counsel, to guide, to offer some suggestions, to give them some tips, all of that, to get mad and all of that. But you can't change you can't I'm trying to think of the word. You can't usurp their own power over their lives. Okay, so Takia comes back and says, oh, okay, I'm with you. Makes sense. Sometimes you have to say it slow for me. Well, sometimes I tell people, talk to me like I'm 5. Talk to me like I'm 5. Actually, I want people to tell me stories like I'm 5. Don't leave anything out. I want to know the color of the car. I want to know what cologne you had on when you got out the shower, all of that. Right. And so yes. So I agree with you. Yes, sometimes we can make a decision that does have an effect on somebody else's life. But my argument is you are acting like you have power that does not belong to you. It belongs to the person, and you can do whatever you want to do. And at the end of the day, all things considered, when everything unfolds, you can't take credit for what happens. And I guess credit, yeah, you can't put the onus on you for what happened. And it's a lot of reasons why we don't need to do that, right? And we'll talk about it. Let me read Romans 12:3 again from the easy English translation. We read it from the easy to read version. Now this is the easy English translation. Same thing, Romans chapter 12, verse 3, talking about who you are. God has been kind to me so that I can serve him. Because of that, I say this to every one of you. Do not think that you are better than you really are. Instead, think about yourself carefully. Decide how much God has helped you to trust him. Then you will know how you should serve him. God has been kind to me so that I can serve him. Because of that, I say this to every one of you. Do not think that you are better than you really are. Instead, think about yourself carefully. Decide how much God has helped you to trust him. Then you will know how you should serve him. So in the King James Version, or the New King James Version, it says, don't think of yourself more highly than you are. Now, I feel like the verse sounds a little harsh, but the point that's being made is this. Listen, the only thing that you can do is receive the gift of God's relationship with you. That for God to say to you, whoever your God is and however it works, whether it's through Jesus, whether it's through Buddha, whether it's through meditation, whether it's through nature, however it is that you have come into this relationship that you have with your God, for you to be in such a sacred space with your God, then just think about what it means to stay in that relationship and not think that you have God's power to affect somebody else's relationship. See, that's what I have the problem with about Christianity in particular today, because I feel like Christians do this way more than other religions. And I might be wrong, and y'all can tell me if I'm wrong about it. But we want to beat people over the head with our beliefs. We want to beat people over the head and weaponize our convictions so that we use them to harm other people. I ain't going to let you sit in a classroom unless you got the 10 commandments on the wall. I'm not going to let you get married unless you do so according to the Bible that I read. I'm not going to let you do this, that, and the other because you can't be same gender loving because that ain't what the Bible says. Well, that's not what the Bible says to you. Your sacred relationship with God speaks to you. It does not give you power over everybody else, and it certainly does not give your God power over their God. There's a council of gods. If this person said it's their God is just as strong as yours, because what gives the gods the power is your faith in them. I will never forget this. This was when I was going to the church in Jackson on Northside Drive, Blair Cathedral. AME Zion Church. And the pastor at the time was Reverend John C. Evans. That's who the pastor was. And he used to say, somebody must have asked a question of him about voodoo or roots or something like that. Something in the practice of people who practice like Santeria and read tarot cards and something along those kinds of faith practices. And this is what he said. He said, if you come home and you see that somebody has sprinkled some dust at your door because they putting a hex on you or they doing something to you, he said, what you need to do, what you ought to do, I made myself hot. What you ought to do is, all you got to do is go get your broom. Go get your broom and sweep that stuff up in your dustpan and put it in the trash, because it only works for the people who believe it. Can't nobody put no hex on you unless you believe that there's a hex that can be put on you. That's what he said. Again, this is arguable. You might argue against it, and that's okay with me. But his point is what he's underscoring my point. It's what you believe in that gives whoever you believe in power, right? Even when we talk about, even if we're not going to talk about spiritual, if we're not going to talk about the sacred, we can talk about internalized racism. We can talk about capitalism. We can talk about all of these things that drive us to do what we do. We do it because we have a certain belief in how it works. And because I believe this is the way that it's going to work, then that's how I'm going to work it. So no matter what you believe about your God, it's your relationship. I do believe it is sacred, and I do believe that it is important and it is significant, and I'm not going to judge you for it. I'm just saying, leave that over there, Mr. Good Sir or Miss Good Ma'am, and ask yourself the question that the verse is the scripture is asking us to think about. It says, listen, it's a privilege for me to be able to be in this relationship with this God, whoever this God is. It's a privilege. I consider it an honor to know that there is a force that's stronger than anything that I can imagine, that's right by my side, that strengthens me, that heals me, that guides me, that leads me, that helps me navigate this world. I'm thankful for it. I don't know what that is. That was my alarm, but I don't know why my alarm would be going off at 7:32. Oh, it must have been supposed to be a.m. Anyway, so I count it all joy to be a part of this relationship, and I don't take it lightly. And because of that, I want to make sure that I keep myself, like, it's almost like the old folks used to say, which I do not recommend you saying this, but old people used to say, stay in a child's place. And some people say a child should be seen and not heard. Like all of these hierarchies that we give to the people that are in our world. Again, I do not recommend that, but I've heard people say that. And so this relationship is yours. Let it stay right. Keep the main thing the main thing. How are you going to interact with your God? How are you going to be led by your God? And then don't put that all on me. And don't think that my relationship gives me the power to affect your relationship. Because whatever God is telling you, that's between you and God. I'm sitting over here watching now. I think that, especially parents, I've heard plenty of parents say this, and me as a parent, I'm parent adjacent. Like I'm the godmama. I'm I'm that person. Like I'm not the biological parent, but I parent in other ways. And so some of us are like, okay, I can see that this is a train wreck. I can see that this is a train wreck about to happen. I already know what the end is going to be. When you first opened your mouth and started talking about this situation, I already knew in my mind that this was not going to end well. But most parents, or many parents, whether they had to learn it the hard way or they just knew it from experience, however they knew it, you know that when you try to tell somebody not to do something, I call it the Adam and Eve syndrome. When you try to force them to stop doing something, that only pushes them to do it more. And so if you think that you got the power based on your relationship to make somebody stop doing it, not only is that not going to happen, you might make it worse. And then when you watch the worst unfold, you say, oh my, I should have done more. Actually, you've done enough. You might should have stepped back a little bit if we really want to be honest about it. And so that's what the scripture is saying to us in Romans chapter 12, verse 3, that you are graced with this relationship. You should hold it sacred, but don't think that you have power to do things that you don't. Now, don't get me wrong. Do you have power? Absolutely, you got power. You got power to do all things that you believe in for your body. That's what you got power to do. I also think that you have power to create spaces for other people to claim their power. I don't think you can give them the power. I don't think they can take your power. But they can say, oh, wait a minute. Yes, this is what I believe. Now, this is how I believe we're supposed to be acting as Christians. I don't know how this works in other religions because I haven't studied them deeply. But in the Christian religion, we think about Christianity, what we call Christianity. When we think about how it was set up in the Bible to work, first of all, I always have to say this. It wasn't Christianity. Jesus did not come to start a religion. Jesus is not a Christian himself. Jesus was a Jew. Okay, let me just say all of that. And so what they believed in was the way, that there was a new way of living amongst each other that would create a pathway to Jesus. That's what they believed. Jesus, they didn't believe Jesus as the Messiah. They didn't, not the apostles. They didn't believe any of that. The way that we see Jesus, that's not the way that they saw Jesus. Because a lot of times they looking at Jesus like, what you mean, you God? Like, what you mean? Like, what? How is your brother? Like, what? So they had a different relationship with Jesus. But they did believe that Jesus had a special anointing and that there was something about him he was ushering in a new way of living into what it means to be in relationship with God. And so that's what is offered to us in the way that they are living amongst folks. It's in Acts chapter, I want to say it's in chapter 2. It might be all through the book of Acts. But the way that I believe the church was set up in Acts, which is what we are not doing, is that you are supposed to come into this knowledge of who God is for yourself through whatever medium. Again, through Jesus, through Buddha, through nature, whatever the medium is. And then you're supposed to live your faith, not advertise it with no crosses, not market it with no books that's got the president's name in it. Like, none of that. All you have to do is live what you believe you are called to live. And it's something about the sacredness of that relationship that no one understands. No one can articulate it. All you know is that you feel it. And you feel it in your bones. It's like somebody opens their mouth to start singing, and you say, look, you could be at a concert, and it could be 5 people that get up on the stage to sing. But this one somebody, you know what? It happened to me with Fantasia. I was not a Fantasia fan, and I'm still not a Fantasia fan. But she opened up for Charlie, Mr. Charlie. What the man name? It's Charlie, Uncle Charlie. Y'all know who I'm talking about. I can't even think of the name of his song right now. But anyway, she was right before him. It was some other people, 2 or 3 people. And then she came out right before him. Listen to me when I say this. When I tell you that girl tore that thing, that she tore it up in there to the point that I was ready to go when she was finished, and she wasn't even the headliner. The Charlie man was the headliner. And so I don't care what's going on in her personal life. I don't care who husband she with. What I know is what I felt when she was up on that stage. And so it's something about how the energy that she brought to the space. There's something about her understanding of vocals or whatever. It was something about her relationship that whoever she believes gives her the gift of song. It was something about that I could not deny. That it was happening in this space. So that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be living the faith that we believe that we have in this sacred relationship, but we're supposed to be doing it amongst other people, some of whom believe like we do and some of whom do not. And we're just going to live beside you. We're going to live out our faith beside you while you're living out your own thing. And what the scripture says is going to happen, because they believe it by faith, what's going to happen is the person that doesn't believe what you believe is going to be so intrigued by the way that you live your faith that they finally say to you one day, what is it about you? Some of us have already had that experience. Somebody will come up to you and be like, what is it about you? Or you can be minding your own business. This happens to me all the time. I don't even see you because I'm minding my own business. And somebody walks up and says, you know what? I just had to come over here and say something to you. And you're like, oh, okay. And it might turn into a whole 3-hour conversation. It might turn into exchange of phone numbers. It might exchange of business cards. It might not turn into anything. They might just walk away and that's the end of that. But there's something about the aura that people can feel and they can see. It's something about your way of being. It's something about your way of it's just something about you that's happening. And when the person asks you the question, then you have the opening to share. And you ain't got to say Jesus' name. You ain't got to pull out the Bible. You ain't got to quote no scriptures. You ain't got to invite them to church. You ain't got to offer them to get nothing to eat. All you have to do is share your story. How did you get to this space of what you believe? That's all. Just share your story. And that's all you have to do, and let the Spirit do the rest. So that's why here I am talking about us being arrogant, because we think that we are the Spirit moving on behalf of the people. Now, we are the God that shows up, right? The way that we understand God showing up. But I'm not showing up to beat you over the head with anything, because that's not what the Spirit does. Even in the book of Revelation, it's recorded that Jesus says, I stand at the door and knock. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Jesus is fully human, yes, but also fully divine. So Jesus fully divine, he can get on the other side. If he can walk on water, if he can raise up dead people, if he can make the mute talk, if he can make the blind see, if he can deliver a person from a legion, that means a whole bunch of demons, if he can deliver that person and then return them to their right mind, their regulated mind, you don't think he can come on the other side of that door? He says, no, that's not what I do. I don't bombard you. I do not force myself on you. I do not intrude upon your life. I knock. And if you let me in, then I will come. And so for us to think that we can knock down somebody's door and go in and get them to see what we want them to see because we have shown up as God, and this is the power that God gives us, then we are disrespecting that power that we have. And we're not doing God any justice. And so so that's what I'm saying about when we say, if only I had done this, that, and the other, then this person would still be alive. It doesn't matter what you do, because that person has power over themselves. But I'm not even talking about the power. Like, I don't want to get even caught up on the power. I've been talking about power for a minute. My problem with it is, again, so now we're at the end of this story, and you have taken all of the responsibility for what you did not do. You did not kill the person. You did not rape the person. You didn't kill their child. You didn't steal their money. You didn't do it. You didn't set up this sequence of events that led them to suicide, to self-transition. You did none of that. So then why is it your fault? And so now you're going to say, okay, well, this is what I need. So now you're going to focus on yourself. I got to think about how I'm going to live differently, what I'm going to do differently, what I'm going to say differently. And so now all of the work you are doing, because you have internalized who you should have been, who you needed to be for somebody else. And so you've lost focus. And that's what the world has caused us to do even now. Even when we talk about our faith, particularly Christianity. It's all about what? As for me and my house, I got to wake up every day and give God thanks and praise for another day's journey. I got to wake up every day and be grateful for the fact that this is a new morning. And so there are new mercies I see. I got to thank God that I have the opportunity now that I woke up on this side of the Jordan. And I want to say, please forgive me for all my sins so that I can go out here and not sin. Help me, lead me, guide me so that I can be the best person I can be today. And then everywhere I go, let me make sure that I'm helping somebody. Let me open the door for somebody. So it is all about you. When to be in communion with God means to be in communion with people. I'm not trying to be a perfect person. I'm not trying to dot all the I's and cross all the T's. I'm trying to live in the flow of the Spirit, which leads me to you to embrace the whole of who you are in the flow of the Spirit that you have. And together we ought to be able to coexist. And together we ought to be able to collaborate with our own gifts from whoever they come from. It don't matter who they came from. We all are gifted in some way. So how do I use my gift with your gift so that we can make the world a better place? And so instead of me saying I should have called her so that she wouldn't have died, we can say, wait a minute. My friend died because of this system that's broken. Let's work together to fix the system. That's what we got to fix. So we're not spending all of our time thinking about how much better we could have been, because you aren't any better. The same thing that happened to this person could have happened to you. I really hate it when people say, and when I say hate, I know hate is a strong word, but I really, really hate it when people say, there but the grace of God go I. In other words, you're saying, because I have God's grace, that didn't happen to me. Which means, if you think about what you're saying, that person didn't have grace, and that's why it happened to them. Is that what you really mean to say? Because here's what the Bible is saying. Hold up. Don't think that you are better than you are. The same thing could happen to you tomorrow. And that does not mean that you are not under God's grace. That means that we live in an evil world. And we got to stop blaming God for everything. Oh, the reason that she died was so God could send me a message on how I need to change my life. No, see, you giving yourself too much credit. This is not about you. We're not fighting each other. We're fighting these principalities. We're fighting these systems. We're fighting these forces. And I'm not talking about angels. I'm talking about systems of domination and oppression and hunger and lack of access to healthcare. These systems that won't allow us to live into the fullness of the relationship that we have with this sacred person, this sacred being, this sacred spirit, this sacred entity. Because we're so busy claiming stuff for our own selves that we should not. And so that's what Romans 12:3 is about. Don't think about yourself more highly than you ought. But then I want to talk about what Galatians 6 says. And I want to use, intentionally, I'm using the Message here, because I'm going to take issue with it. I want to always remind y'all that those of us who are preachers, who are teachers, who instruct on the Bible, that we're going to pull out what we want to pull out to make our case. That's what we are doing. We're making our case. There are so many other cases that can be made with the same verse. So you have the privilege, you have the right, you should dare to have the audacity to say, I disagree with what you're saying. I disagree with your interpretation. All this, you can't question God, which means you can't tell the preacher that he wrong or she's wrong or they're wrong. Let go of that. People who tell you that, they trying to control you. That's all that is. And so I'm choosing this interpretation of Galatians chapter. I really want to get to Galatians chapter 6. I really want to focus on verse 2, but because of the way the Message is written, it's verses 1-3. And again, I'm going to take issue with it. That's why I want to read it. And so we talked about the fact that we shouldn't think about ourselves as being better than the other person. We shouldn't think about ourselves more highly than we ought. We should rest in the sacredness of our relationship and be guided by that relationship. Yes, to offer counsel to help protect people, but not to absorb what happened to them as if we had the power to change it, because we don't have that kind of power. But listen to what Galatians says, chapter 6, verses 1-3. Again, this is from the Message Bible that's written by James Peterson. He was a priest. I want to say he was a priest, but I know he was a minister of some sort. Live creatively, friends. If someone falls into sin, forgivingly restore him, saving your critical comments for yourself. You might be needing forgiveness before the day is out. Stoop down and reach out to those who are oppressed. Share their burdens, and so complete Christ's law. If you think you are too good for that, you are badly deceived. Let me read this again. Live creatively, friends. If someone falls into sin, forgivingly restore him, saving your critical comments for yourself. You might be needing forgiveness before the day is out. Stoop down and reach out to those who are oppressed. Share their burdens, and so complete Christ's law. If you think you are too good for that, you are badly deceived. So verse 2, if you read it in another translation, which might be more familiar for some of you, it says, carry your burdens. Carry each other's burdens. Now, look, I done read it in all these other translations. I can't even remember it in the King James. Oh, I have my phone right here. Because everything, I can't believe this, because usually I quote directly from the King James, because that's how I grew up. I grew up on only the King James. I'm so glad that I don't believe that anymore, because that's not the case. But if you read that same, what am I talking about? I'm talking about Galatians 6:2, and I want to. So what does the King James version say? It says, yeah, they say Ephesians. I'm like, what is you talking about? Okay, yeah, bear ye one another's burdens. Bear ye one another's burdens. And so it says carry. And so we have a responsibility, again, to live communally. We have a responsibility to realize that we do not have the privilege of looking at somebody else's life and saying, oh, you must be doing something wrong. Oh, you must not have grace. Oh, you must not have enough faith. Oh, you must be sinning. Oh, you must not be tithing. We don't get the privilege to do that. You cannot, it says, save your judgment, your critical comments for yourself. Because yes, you should be interrogating yourself and asking yourself what you can do better in your relationship, or what you need to work on, or whatever. But to cast those aspersions onto somebody else, that's not your duty, your responsibility. It's not even God. But instead, whatever another person is going through, then we should realize that we should be going through it too, with them, right by their side. We should be feeling what they feel. We should be hurting when they hurt. We should be laughing when they laugh. We should be rejoicing when they rejoice, because we're in this thing together. We're in this thing together. I don't know. We're in this love together. Gotta love that lasts forever. And so we have to, when it says carry somebody else, so when the person that's talking about their friend who died, I could understand the story if they said that it hurt me to watch my friend go through this. Every time that she came to me and told me what was happening in her home, I cried with her. I offered her a place to stay. I tried to protect her. I offered her every bit of support I could. And I told her, no matter what decision you make, even if you choose to go back, I'm going to be with you. I'm going to do whatever I can to support you. I'm not going to leave your side. I'm not going to say, I tried to tell her not to leave. I told her she was going to end up dead. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to be there as much as you allow me to be, in the spirit that I intend for you to receive it in. And then we're going to watch it unfold. And if you end up, and usually you do in these cases, because that's why they on the series, because they end up dead. And so if you end up losing your life, then it gives me another opportunity to say, how can I now use this story to speak out to other people so that we can figure out a way to dismantle these systems to lead to this kind of stuff? Because a lot of the deaths that I see in these particular stories that I'm watching, these series that I'm watching, it's rooted in patriarchy, sexism, that kind of thing. It's rooted in the system of enslavement, because this country was born, this country was built on the fact of people being property. And we still have this notion in relationships that somebody belongs to us. You my husband, you my wife, you my child, you my boyfriend, you my lover. There's this relationship that gives me some kind of attachment to you, that allows me to exert some kind of power over you if I want to. Now that we done got married, you got to do what I say do. Wait, what? And so this ownership that is rooted in the very soil that we walk on in this country and in this world, we still have remnants of that. And some of us, that's all we want. We want to figure out how we can get to in the position to control somebody else's body. That's what we live for. That's what capitalism is about. That's what patriarchy is about. That's what sexism is about. That's what homophobia is about. That's what transphobia is about. It's all about making sure that I have a right to tell somebody what they can and cannot do with their bodies, that I own that part of them. And so when you see somebody dying as a result of these kinds of systems, then it gives us more fire. It fuels our fire even more to say, what can I do? When we ask the question, what must I do to be saved? We talk about the Ethiopian, Nicodemus. The Ethiopian says to him, what must I do to be saved? What must I do? He cries out. He comes running. And so we see somebody die as a result of these harmful systems. Then that's what we do. We come running asking, what must we do as a world to be saved? It's the world's problem, and we can work together to fix it. Now, here's where we are empowered to change the trajectory of somebody's life by dismantling these systems. But listen to what here's where I want to take issue with the message. After it says that, after it tells us, hey, look at what we're called to do. We're called to be communal. We're called to support. We're called to work side by side. We're called to help when we can. We're called to be what the other person needs if we can be. But look at what else it says. Stoop down and reach out to those who are oppressed. Listen to this again. Stoop down and reach out to those who are oppressed. What you mean stoop down? So the only way that I can imagine me stooping down is for me to be elevated in some way. If I got to stoop down to the people who are oppressed, what am I saying that I'm not oppressed because I'm somehow above oppression? I'm saying I got to stoop down because you are somehow inferior to me because I'm up here above oppression, and look at you, you entangled in it. What do we? It's another verse that I hate in the Bible. Absolutely hate it when it says, "If you do it for the least of them." Who is the least of them? So if there's a least of them, there's the most of them. So who is the most of them? So like who, where we, how? And then we use that language in the same Bible that says God is no respecter of persons. So if God is no respecter of person, who I'm stooping down to as if I'm elevated, and who is the least as if there's a most. So we got to be careful with this language. And if we say, oh, I want to use my power to become a better human so that my faith shows up in a different way, we got to challenge that faith right there. Instead of you saying, oh, I could have kept her from dying, you say, oh, wait a minute, I can keep from harming somebody by understanding that there is no stooping down and there is no least and there is no most. We all are the same in the eyes of whoever our God is. We are all the same. You know what? Just as I said that, I said, I need to be careful right here. Because maybe some of y'all are serving a God that tells you better than somebody. Christian nationalism absolutely says that. But that ain't no real religion. That's just some political agendas that y'all have made up that y'all follow. And there's blasphemy, really. It's heretical if we really want to tell the truth. So, yeah, for those of, so I can say this because that's not a faith practice. It ain't no God in the sky telling y'all that. There ain't no sky daddy. I got a friend that calls it a sky daddy. There ain't no sky daddy telling you that. That's just some stuff you tell yourself. And so that's what I mean by arrogant accountability, where we are placing responsibility on ourselves responsibilities on ourselves that don't belong to us. And in doing that, it skews our view so that it distracts us from actually seeing and dealing with the real problem. We need to be making sure that we figure out a way to keep people from harming folks. And you say, well, Denise, you can't stop nobody from doing what they want. Yeah. Again, these stories that are being told, they start with the person when they were born into poverty, sexually molested as a child, violently abused as a child, saw their mom and daddy kill each other. Like these situations and circumstances, unless you are a psychopath, which means you were born with this anomaly that makes you evil. The other people that are committing this kind of evil, they're sociopaths, which means that they were socially formed to do this. Now, I'm not giving them a way out. I'm not giving them an excuse. I'm saying there are things that we can change in our system that will mitigate some of these problems that cause people to end up getting killed. That's what I'm saying. Are we going to wipe out all evil? No, I'm not even suggesting that. Am I going to say, can I say that we can point to a person and say, well, I know you're going to end up being a sociopath? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying we are called to do a work in the world that will help to serve people and give them a better pathway, a more clear pathway to the abundant life that will allow them to live into the love of each other that we are called to do, especially as Christians, because that's what Jesus said in the New Testament, and said it ain't but 2 commandments that you need to be following. That's love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, body, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. That's it. That's it. And if we are creating a world that affirms people in who they are, that gives people the opportunity to see themselves as lovable and wanted and belonging from jump. If we stop telling people who get children, who young women or young bodies that get pregnant at a young age, look at you, done messed up your life, you done had this baby. We got to stop all that. Changes people. That changes the way they even see the baby, which changes the way they take care of the baby, which then sets the baby up for failure. So there are some things that we have the power to do in this world. So stop believing that everything is about you and yourself and your house, and say, God, oh, how is this story being used to show me something and give me access to the resources that will then truly affect change? That's what I'm offering up for us to think about. And that's all I got. It's 8 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining Beyond the Page, powered by The Good Fight. Be right back here next Tuesday, 7 to 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. Bye. I was trying to see if T was going to wave at y'all. If she wave at y'all, it's a problem. Bye.